Jonathan, brother, welcome to the RevRx Podcast, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your voice. I just want to say welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you are putting out fantastic content in the world of sports and particularly being parents of sports kids. I find myself in the thick of that right now. My boys are 4 and 6, and so those are the age groups I'm coaching. But my daughter's 9; she's in softball, and man, we're immersed.
It gets better, just like it gets as they get older. The focus gets there a little bit more. It's still hurting cats, but they hurt a little bit easier.
There you go. Hey, and I'm enjoying my 6-year-old's team because hey, they can throw and catch now, and that's a big difference from where I'm at with t-ball. But we're immersed in this, man, and I'm a sports fanatic. I grew up playing all kinds of sports. I love sports. But what I'm seeing in our world today is maybe a little bit of an idolization of sports, and you are speaking truth into this world of sports mania, as I call it. So before we jump into our topic today, though, I'd love for you just to introduce yourself to our audience and kind of tell us how you got into the world of sports parenting.
Yes, so I'm Jonathan, obviously. I started Healthy Sports Parents the beginning of 2025 because in the fall of 24, my daughter, who was 9 at the time, was on a soccer team, had a pretty rough experience that season with a coach who was a little too focused on winning, a little too focused on performance. And then at the end of that season, so my mind had already started going that direction. And at the end of that season, we did a tournament to kind of cap off the end of the year. We're a rec team, but we went and played like this little travel tournament just to almost like an all-stars type of thing, just to have something there. And at one of the games, I saw a dad. After the game, he was yelling at his daughter on the sideline, who had to be 8 or 9 years old. Daughter leans into mom, and dad continues yelling. And I knew where the team was from. I looked at dad. I could see I sized him up a little bit. I made some snap assumptions, and I had sympathy for the daughter in that moment, but I had empathy for that dad, because I can guarantee you, Chad, that morning he did not wake up saying, "You know what sounds fun today? I want to make my little girl cry."
Right.
That sounds like that's a great way to spend my morning, is to lose control of my emotions and make my daughter cry. I guarantee you he did not go into that game with that intention in mind. And my dad, I have a vivid memory of him when I was in 5th grade, of me having to yell at him in the middle of a basketball game, telling him to shut up because he was yelling at me. And so I've been there. I've been around that. And I knew if I didn't have some of the training and background that I had, that I very easily could have been that dad. So I went home and started talking to some people and asked around, like, what do you guys think of this idea? And everyone said, yes, you should do it. So December of 24, I planned out 7 podcast episodes. I was like, let's give this a try. And the second week the podcast was out, I did an Instagram reel, kind of like the ones that you said you've seen that I do daily now. And it got 6 million views in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so I went from no followers to 25,000 followers by the end of the first month.
Yeah.
And the thing's kind of taken off since then. I told people that if I could get 10,000 followers in my first year, that would be insane. Like, I can't even imagine getting 10,000 followers. And at the 1-year anniversary this year, I had 135,000 followers across social.
That's awesome.
So it reinforced, I have this core belief that most parents want to do better. They've just never been taught how. And the response has just confirmed that big idea that parents do want better. They want someone to teach them. They want someone to show them the way. And if we can do it in empathetic ways that show we understand where parents are coming from and the struggles they're going through, and it's not judgmental, because there's so much sport parenting content that's judgmental. And I'm sarcastic at times, so I definitely will go there.
Yeah.
But the heart of what I do is like, hey, this is what's going on inside you. Like, if you understand this, then we can talk about the things that come after that. But until you do the work on yourself, you're never going to understand why this feels so stressful.
Yeah, I love that, because, and that is something I've noticed about you, is that it's judgment free. You know, we're not trying to heap shame and guilt upon you. What we're trying to do is to come alongside you lovingly, and we know you want to do better. And here's some keys. Here's some principles. Here's how to do the work.
And you were probably taught wrong too.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is a response to what you were taught.
That's good. Yeah.
And the people who taught you, which was our parents, didn't have the information we have now. So they were going on the best information they had at the time. But time, perspective, research, we learn new things.
Absolutely.
And I can't expect everyone to know what the research says.
Mm-hmm.
They're busy living their own life, doing their own thing. Like, they're not as big of a nerd as this as I am. Like, I have a degree in sport management. Like, that's what I went to college for. But if I can teach those things and maybe get you thinking differently, it may not happen overnight. And I get messages all the time from parents saying, thank you for the perspective shift. I'm still struggling with it, but I'm doing different. And like, that's all I want. Like, we're human. We're going to mess up. Like, there's grace upon grace for screwing up.
Absolutely.
But can we pursue it? Can we pursue the right way, even when we're stumbling and not doing it?
And that's it. You know, it's not like a light switch. You know, you're not going to just cut it on and be like,
we're humans.
Yeah. Look at me, man. I'm a super dad all of a sudden. But you know, it's taking in the information, it's doing the hard work, and it's putting it in practice. And like anything worthwhile, it's going to take time. But you're doing important work to help us as parents to create a healthy sports environment. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
If, you know, we think about kids and describing that story, you know, I see that on a weekly basis, it seems like, in Little League at different levels. I had a friend of mine, he helped me coach last year, and he said, I'm coaching 9 and 10-year-olds this year. And one of the things he said that was different, he said, the parents start really caring at 9 and 10 years old. And the assumption there was there's a lot more pressure. There's a lot more pressure on the coach. There's a lot more pressure on the kids. In your expertise, why do parents put so much pressure on their kids in sports? Where does that kind of thing typically come from? And maybe that's a loaded question, but maybe a conversation point.
That's chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Healthy Sports Parents book that I'm writing.
Yep.
The big idea. So there's 2 lanes we can come at this from. We got to understand the first before we can get to the second. So I'll try to explain them quickly. The first is, within all of us, there are these 2 psychological driving factors called self-love and self-glory. These are human nature. There's nothing wrong with them. You come from a faith-based background like I do. Like, these go back before the fall. So these are not a result of sin. These are human condition, the way we were made. Self-love just means we want others to like us. And self-glory means we want others to think that we are good at what we do. Like, if we take it back, like human history, like, Chad, I wanted you to like me, and I wanted you to think I was good at what I did, so that when the other tribe comes through the cul-de-sac, over the hill, through the cul-de-sac, you're going to be on my side to help me fight against them. So it's like, it's a protection mechanism. But what can happen so easily if we're not careful is we can think, and we don't realize when this is happening. So if anyone's listening to this, like, there's no judgment here. Like, this just happens. We can think that others will like us more if our kid is a better athlete. If our kid is performing better, then the other parents at the field will like us more. And similarly, if our kid is performing better, they will think we're a better parent. Or if we're getting our private lessons, or if they're signing up for all the camps, we inadvertently, naturally, on our own, if we don't fight against this, can think others will think we're a better parent if we're providing all these opportunities that we didn't get as kids. And so it can quickly go from, I want what's best for my kid, which is healthy, loving, great, to, if I don't do all these things, then I'm not providing enough for my kid, or I'm not providing as much as Jill, Jessica, Jeff, and John. And like, that messes with us. So this idea of self-love and self-glory, it's natural, it's human, we all have it. The issue comes when it goes from the back seat to the driver's seat and starts driving the bus.
And I'll even add to that, I think that resonates so well because, you know, truth moment, I've been assistant coach on some teams, and I'm head coach for one this year. And I remember thinking, okay, I hope my kid does well, because otherwise they're not going to think I'm a good coach. If I can't coach my kid, they're going to think I'm not as good of a coach. So even from the coach perspective, I mean, that hits, you know, and again, no shame, judgment, anything like that, but that's part of what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And so that's the one side. The other side is, youth sports have this way of shining a light on our deepest insecurities that we didn't realize were there. And the example I'll give you is I was literally having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. We've been friends since middle school. And he was telling me his son's 13, I think, was playing a soccer tournament this past weekend. And in the midst of the game, my friend saw a player from the other team coming straight at his kid, was not playing the ball, was about to knock the crap out of his kid. And my friend yelled at the kid on the other team, play the ball, don't play the kid. My friend knows not to yell at 13-year-olds on a soccer field. He knows he should not be doing that. But when he's telling me the story, I said, Will, do you remember in middle school when we were playing all-star basketball and that kid knocked you out? He goes, you mean the kid that knocked me into the wall at 45 miles an hour? Yeah, I remember that. And so we start talking about that because like my dad, I was the biggest kid at the time. My dad told me that he's never seen me bow up at a kid like that. He thought he was going to have to come out of the stands and pull me off of another kid because he had thrown one of my friends into the wall. So what happened in that moment was you saw that kid 27 years ago who got thrown into a wall and broke his wrist, and you saw that happening to your child on the field.
Yeah, that's good.
And you wanted to protect them. And so in that, you yelled not so nicely at a 13-year-old child. Should you have yelled at that child? No, we both agree on that. But that's such a human thing to do that I want to protect, I don't just want to protect my kid. I have this past experience that was bad for me.
Yes.
That I also want to protect my kid from. So we get so nervous when our kid's shooting free throws at the end of the game because we remember a time when we might not even cognitively remember it. Our body and our brain remembers the time when we were kids and we embarrassed ourselves in front of the group or we let our friends down.
Yeah.
So there are these things underneath us that are causing all of these feelings of insecurity that we don't take the time to name. And so when you add in the self-love and the self-glory with the insecurities and past experiences, you get this recipe for reacting out of emotion. And we all know when we react out of emotion, that's normally not the best thing. The best things don't happen then. So like understanding those things at a base level that they're happening can change the entire thing. And so my message to so many people is that youth sports are not about winning. That brings up all sorts of conversations, but I contend youth sports are about helping our kids develop the tools they need to be healthy, successful humans.
Absolutely.
And so if, let's say you accept that premise, that doesn't mean we don't try to win. We always try to win, but at the end of the day, that's not the primary goal. If we accept that premise, how do things change? Well, then a loss today or a bad performance doesn't represent my parenting.
Yes.
It doesn't represent anything about me. And if youth sports are not about winning, they're about teaching life lessons and developing the tools needed to have success in life, then my kid failing today is not shameful. It's an opportunity for growth and learning.
Yes.
We can use this feeling to pivot and reframe in a way that helps them grow in the future. So when we go with that perspective, that shame, those past insecurities we feel naturally, again, they get put in their proper place. Like, I can feel this. I can want my kid to perform well. I can want them to have success. But if they don't, it's not the end of the world. Because what your friend is seeing at this 9 and 10-year-old level, that's second, third, fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Usually third and fourth. Middle school's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they see that middle school team in 6th, 7th grade, usually 7th grade for baseball, 6th grade for other sports. And they want their kid to make that team.
That's right.
But if we reframe this whole journey and put it in its proper context, then, okay, what if our kid doesn't make the team in 7th grade? What happens? Well, they're disappointed. And it's going to be harder for them to find a place to play then because recreation opportunities aren't as accessible in teenage years. Might have to play some type of travel. They might be behind. Okay, that sucks. But it's not an indictment on me. It's not an indictment on my kid. We can learn from it. And the story I give a lot is I'm the PA announcer for my local high school baseball team, and I do some like outside of baseball training with them. And we had a kid last year who was conference player of the year. He went and he's playing at a top 10 Division II school this year. He got cut from the team his 7th grade year. He didn't make it. And not making it is what led him to developing the internal motivation, that intrinsic motivation to work harder, to ask his dad to take him to the cages, to ask his dad to hit him ground balls. And had he made the team his 7th grade year, we don't know that would have happened. Had his dad bulldozed his way onto a team, we don't know if he would have developed that. And so when we take this long-term approach, we're able to reframe these day-to-day situations in a way that are healthier and much less pressure-filled.
Yeah. Such a great way of unpacking that, Jonathan. Thank you for explaining some of that to us, because until we understand the motivation behind what we do, we'll continue to do what we're doing. And the motivation behind what we do oftentimes comes from these insecurities that we have. And again, it's okay to feel that way, but how you act out of that becomes what shapes your child and kind of what shapes your relationships. And
I know you come from a faith background. You're a pastor. I have a seminary degree. I have a church staff background as well.
Yeah.
Can we throw in the Christianity piece of this and really ruffle some feathers?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is the part that some people don't like to hear. When our faith is performance-based, meaning when I follow the rules, I am holier. When I don't do these things, that means I'm a better Christian. When I do these things, that means I'm a better Christian. When we're not living out of grace and acceptance and mercy, and those aren't the things, and we're living out of this behavior modification, performance-based faith, then that mindset adds another layer when we go to the ball field. Because the way our brain processes our faith and our identity is we are holier when we perform better. So our kid is better when they are performing. And if our kid is not performing, then that means they are not as good.
Yeah.
They are not as good. I am not leading them as well. So much of this comes back to, especially if we're people of faith, how do we view the gospel? How do we view our lens of what Jesus has done for us and what it means to be a Christian? Are we living out of grace, or are we living out of this behavior modification, rule following fundamentalism? And so what I have found, I went to Liberty for God's sake. What I have found is the more fundamentalist the faith side, the worse the attitudes on the sidelines. There is a direct connection between how we view our faith and how we view the sidelines.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And, again, like that's not what we want to hear. But I'm a big part of what I like to do with this podcast is show people that your faith comes out in every aspect of your life, including how you act on the sideline for your kids' ball games. And your understanding of God and who he is and what he's done, that shapes how you act on the sideline for your kids' ball games. And basically what we're saying here is this: if you have a mindset that your worth is dependent on what you do and how well you do it,
and your holiness as well,
yeah, then that's going to trickle over to your approach to sports.
Yeah. And I want to I'm going to go that. I didn't plan to go here when we started talking. And so cut me off if you need me to.
Let's do it.
But there's a chapter in the book I'm writing. It's at the very end. It's called and Peter Parenting. So the Healthy Sports Parents book I'm working on is a secular book, but I have this faith-based chapter at the end for people like you and I. And I come back to the story of the resurrection. And when the angel appears to the ladies at the tomb, he conveys a message from Jesus that says, "Tell my disciples and Peter, I want to see them later today."
Yeah.
And Peter is important there, because if we go back a couple of days, Jesus tells Peter that he's going to deny him 3 times. And Peter says, "No, dude, I would never do that." As Jesus is on trial, Peter's confronted. "No, I don't know Jesus." He's confronted a second time. "No, I don't know him." And the third time, the text says that Peter responds with a curse. The lead pastor I worked for when I was on staff was a New Testament scholar who literally had a Greek New Testament on his desk. And he told me that translated into our culture is, I don't effing know the guy, Chad.
Wow.
Like when Peter was confronted. Immediately after saying that, rooster crows, Peter looks up, he locks eyes with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus knows he's denied him. Peter knows that Jesus knows, and Jesus is led off to be killed the next day. So by all accounts, Peter has done every performance-related thing wrong. Yet when Jesus rises from the dead, he doesn't just say, hey, I want to see the team. I want to see my kids. He says, I want to see my kids and that guy who screwed up more than anyone else.
That's right.
I want to see my kids and Peter.
Mm.
And so as parents, how are we viewing our kids? Can we view them as Jesus viewed Peter in that moment? And can we have this and Peter parenting style so that even when my kid screws up, my kid plays a terrible game, we're going to get ice cream anyways.
Yeah.
Because I want them to know that I love them despite their performance.
And guess what? They already feel bad.
They already feel bad.
Yeah.
And it's like the pushback I get to the side is, well, my kid plays bad. They don't want to go get ice cream. Make them. Because they need to see that your love for them is not dependent on their performance.
Yeah.
And when we lead with that in mind, our kids play freer because they know mom and dad love them no matter what. And if we scale that out down this journey, how many people do you know that are your age right now that are still trying to earn the love of their parents through their performance? Whether it's their job, whether it's you fill in the blank, like they're in their 30s, 40s, 50. I've known people in their 60s who are still trying. Their parents have been dead for 20 years and they're still trying to earn the love, acceptance of their parents through their performance. Imagine if our kids are so well grounded at 8, 10, 12, 15, that mom and dad love them for who they are, not their performance. What type of freedom does that allow them to walk in when they go to college, when they enter the job force, when they become a parent, when they become a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a spouse? Like, it changes everything.
That's right. And as parents, that a lot of times that relationship, that love we show our kids is going to be, hopefully the closest thing to the love of God here on earth. And it needs to be unconditional. And, of course, we'd never say, I don't love my kid as much when he screws up. But how are we acting?
The way I tell people is, this is not scientific based. This is courtless. This is years of being around this. The way dad loves kid is the way kid sees God the Father.
Yes, that's right.
The way mom loves the kid is the way the kid accepts and interprets the love of Jesus. I can't explain why that is.
No, I get it.
I don't have the science to back it up. It's just, I had this theory years ago and I've seen it played out over there. It could be different in different situations, single family homes and all that. But more often than not, dads, the way you love your kid is the way that your kid is going to interpret the love of God the Father. Moms, the way you love your kid is the way that many kids will interpret how Jesus loves them.
And to extrapolate what you said, a lot of people are still trying to earn the acceptance and love of their parents. A lot of people in that fundamentalist.
And the love of Jesus.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
In that fundamentalist, performance-based religion that you can become trapped in so easily, they're still trying to earn the love and acceptance of Jesus that he already has given them.
It's for
they're
freedom,
not operating in grace.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like,
that sets you free. Jesus came to set you free, not to burden you. He takes our burdens. And that's what we portray to our kids. When we're caught up in this performance-based religion, we think that's just how things work. And therefore, our kids must line up too. I even recognize this. We had practice last night with my 6-year-old. And he was up to bat. He's the youngest kid on the team. It's 8 and under. He's like in the last month where he can't play down anymore. He has to play up. And poor kid. These kids can play ball. And this guy's like barely removed from T-ball, right? And but he's up there. He's up to bat. He looks like a statue. Like the kid's scared to death. coach pitch, and the guy's bringing it, and he's missing. And I finally looked at him. I was behind catching, and I said, "Buddy, relax. It's okay. Relax." Because coaches were kind of giving him some, "Hey, do this. Hey, do this. Hey, do this," and I was in on that too. But finally, I just said, "Dude, relax," and you could see it fall off of him. And as he relaxed, he started hitting the ball.
Imagine
and
that.
He started hitting more than he was missing.
Imagine
and
that.
Yeah, and then the coach was like, "Buddy, good job." Even the head coach called him out. He's like, "Good job, bud." There's when they play free, like when they don't have to earn acceptance and approval and love based on their performance on the field, there's a freedom that comes over them, and that's when they learn to love the game, in my opinion.
And that's when the joy comes in.
Yep.
It's not about the results. Like, for those of you listening who may not know this, there's a study done in 2015. It's been duplicated a few different times. It's been across multiple sports, multiple ages, multiple competition levels. It's called the Fun Map study, where researchers wanted to find what makes sports fun for kids. Of the 80-something things that they mapped out, winning never came above 40. The categories that made sports the most fun: playing with their friends, learning new skills, competing, and having coaches and parents who supported them when they tried new things and failed.
Awesome.
That's what makes sports fun. Yes, in the moment, winning is more fun than losing, and your kid might cry when they lose, and we want that. That means they care. But the sporting experience is fun when you're with your friends and you like your teammates,
Mm-hmm.
when you're learning new skills, when you're competing. That's why games need to be close and you don't want to have blowouts either direction. And when mom and dad and coach support them when they're trying new things. If we do those 4 things, they're going to enjoy it. They're going to play with freedom. They're going to play with joy, and they're going to love the sport, even if they quit at 13 like most kids. But they're going to have a good recollection and association with the sport and movement.
Yeah. That last thing, I think, is really, really important that you mentioned, of those 4 things that were most important. The thing about giving them space to fail, try new things and fail. I remember growing up, and new thing, and my little boy said something recently. New things are scary. New skills are scary. Every part of Little League, every part of Little League, you're learning new things and you're adding on these layers.
I tell my kids I coach, and I coach soccer mostly, but can you be brave enough to be bad before you get good?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
You're going to be bad. That's fine. Can you be brave enough to be bad, because that's the only way you're going to get good?
That's right. And I tell them, you're going to get worse before you get better. We're learning to implement a leg kick with the swing for my 6-year-old. He's just been sitting there swinging with his arms. I'm like, "Hey, dude, the next step for you to start hitting the ball harder, to start hitting the ball better, you got to implement a little bit of a leg kick. You got to stay back and implementing some of this." He said, "All right, I'll try it." So I pitched him a few, and he missed every one of them. And then he goes, "Daddy, I don't like this. I'm not good at this." I said, "Well, you're never good at something to start with." And it's about giving them that space and helping them with the expectations, I think, is important too. If they think that, okay, this is going to make me automatically better, and then they're not, they think, okay, this isn't working, or there's something wrong with me. But give them the space to fail, set the expectations of, with every layer, there's a new learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And give them a clue of what to expect. And failing doesn't mean failing. Failing means, hey, you learned something.
I had a 9-year-old girl I was coaching. I coached for 2 seasons in a row. Love this little girl, but she's a crier. She, anytime something goes wrong, she cries. If she's not perfect, she cries. And that's just her personality. She came up to me in practice one day, just boo-hoo crying. And I got down on a knee in front of her. I was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" She goes, "I feel like I'm not getting any better. I feel like I'm getting worse." I just kind of smiled. I was like, "No, you're not. I see it. You're getting better. But as you get better, you're noticing things you didn't notice before. So you're seeing some things that still can get better." "Oh, okay." And she kind of she soaked up the tears, and we went and practiced the rest of practice. The next game we had, she took a ball, dribbled down the sideline, goes in and gets a goal. And she's running it back with this big giant smile on her face. And I just go, "I thought you weren't getting any better." Just super sarcastic to her. And she just starts giggling. But it's like, they don't see it in the moment. They rely on us as adults and people with bigger perspective to lead them through these moments. And so I own a marketing business as my day job. And so much of what I do is messaging for organizations and businesses and churches and nonprofits and all that. And what so many people get wrong is we think we're the hero of the story, like because we have our own issues and insecurities and all those things. And so the reframe that we use in marketing that also works for parents is we should be the guide, not the hero. And the difference is the hero says, do what I do. Do what I say because I'm the adult. I know what I'm doing. The guide first shows empathy and says, hey, I know how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But then they show their authority. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I know I know how you feel right now. I know where you want to go and I know how to get there because I've been there. Let me show you the way. And that changes the relationship up because it's no longer authoritarian based. It's now like, I get it. I've been there. Let me show you the way. And kids want to be led. Humans want to be led. So if we can reframe it in that way, which first starts going back to what we started with, understanding ourselves and understand why we're feeling this. So like it's this process, then we can lead our kids in a way that is grace-based, that is empathetic, that allows them to have the space to fail, to screw up, and to learn in healthy environments that encourages them to keep going.
Yeah. So much truth here. And we've talked about projecting some of our insecurities onto our kids. One of the other issues I see that's prevalent in our world today, and even in the church, while we're ruffling feathers, let's just go ahead and talk about this, is making something more important than it is. That's called idolization. We see it time and time again in the Bible. People would worship these idols instead of God. They would put these other things ahead of God. Sometimes they would say, well, I'm going to worship God, but I'm also going to worship these things. And man, don't we do that too sometimes in our world? We would never say I'm worshiping an idol, but our lives and our time and our energy and our pocketbooks would say differently. Anything we put ahead of God in our life is an idol. And I see this tendency to put sports, and man, there's a full spectrum here, not even just kids sports. Sports as a whole, watching sports, rooting for a team, that sort of thing. None of that's wrong. But it can become more important to us than it should be. What does it look like for a family to keep sports from becoming the idol that we see so often?
It gets back to what's the reason we're playing? Like, are we playing to create this great competitor or this great athlete who does all these things? Well, statistically, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. 70% of kids quit by the time they're 13. 6% of high school athletes go on to play college at any level. 2% of college athletes go on to play pro. So chances of your kid becoming a pro is 1 out of 6,667 if they're in elementary school. The chances of them going on to play Division I sports is 1 in 150 if they're in elementary school. So that's not to poop on your kids' dreams. It's just to let you know.
Yeah.
The chances of them, like the old NCAA saying of like everyone goes and pro in something else. It's kind of there. So are we trying to build these great competitors? Are we trying to build these great athletes? Or are we trying to build great humans? And if our goal through sports is to build great humans, then we understand that sports are not everything. Sports have their place. Sports are good. Sports are healthy, but they are not everything. And kids need a chance to be kids. They need a chance to try other things. They need a chance to be bored. They need a chance to develop new skills and to just hang out with their friends and to do all these different things. I interviewed Stacy Newman-Denise, who is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She's the current softball coach at San Diego State University, where she's won nearly 70% of her games. She said, if you have a kid who's meant to get there, they're going to get there. You don't have to manufacture it. Everyone I talk to who has been at the highest levels, their bodies are different. Their mentality is different. So are we trying to manufacture this athlete, or are we trying to cultivate a human? It doesn't mean we don't play sports. It doesn't mean but I had a self-check moment the other day because I'm coaching my daughter's soccer team, U12 recreation soccer team this spring. My daughter also does a thing called Girls on the Run at school. And the Girls on the Run program ends with a 5K at the end of the spring. That's on the same day as one of our soccer games. And my daughter was saying she wanted to choose the 5K that she's going to run with her mom and her friends over the soccer game. And it upset me in the moment because I'm like, we're getting into middle school. Like, we're starting to take this more, like she said she's starting to take this more seriously. And it took me a minute, like longer than I am proud of, to be like, no, like, this doesn't matter. Like, I was worried in that moment about what it represented to me, that I might miss the game and have to have an assistant coach because my daughter is choosing a race over the soccer game. But when I'm able to process it with the emotion taken aside, with the personal investment, my daughter's going to run a 5K with her mom and her friends from school. She's going to remember that so much more than a random soccer game
right
in the midst of a season.
right
And that it helps make her a more well-rounded person. So like when I can set my ego aside, she needs to go do that race. If that's what she wants. If she wants to play soccer, let's play soccer. But if she wants to play or wants to run the race, that's where she needs to be that Saturday morning. And those other kids that I'm coaching, I got great assistant coaches who are more than capable to run a game. And so it's not about me. It's about my daughter growing as a human. And that's what's best for her.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate you sharing that vulnerability because you're showing us the process that all of
You're
us.
never done.
Right. You know, you never reach a point where you've arrived. You're just always working towards it. And no, you're an expert in this, and you still have moments where you have to think, okay, let me work. But you show us what it looks like to work through it, and that's what I appreciate about that. Real quick, do you have a take on travel ball? Are there some questions maybe that people should work through before they sign up for a team, that kind of thing?
I am literally recording an episode of my podcast this afternoon about what parents should think through before they jump from rec ball to travel ball.
Well, hey, here's your chance to practice it.
So there'll be a 45 minute to hour long episode out later this spring about that, probably coming in late April, I think it is. Here, let me run you through it. I'll pull up the outline for the show.
That wasn't in my notes. It popped in my head.
So the general principle I have is that travel ball should be kid led, not parent led. It should be the kid asking for more competition, not the parent being fearful that their kid's going to fall behind. And the way you know your kid is ready, they're going to ask to play travel before they're ready because their friends are playing travel and they want the jersey with their name on it. They want those experiences. But the way you know your kid is ready for travel is if they're doing the work at home. Are they asking to take ground balls in the backyard? Are they hitting off the tee? Are they kicking a soccer ball around on their own? Are they shooting free throws on their own? Like, you will know they're ready, because the way I frame it, we're going to pay $800, $1,000 for this season.
Mm-hmm.
This kid needs to put in an equivalent amount of work for their age. So it shouldn't be out of fear. But at the same time, like, we have to ask ourselves, is this what's best for our family? Like, are we the type of family who needs to recharge at the end of the week with downtime? Or are we okay going all weekend without much downtime? My wife is a cancer nurse. So like by the end of the week, she is exhausted. For us to go to tournaments every weekend, like, would not be healthy for her or for us. So it's like, are we ready? One of the other questions that we don't think about is like, how does this affect the other kids in my house?
Yes.
Does our family get wrapped up on big brother's sporting career so that little brother, little sister feel like they don't matter as much because they're playing recreation still?
They're just along for the ride. Yeah.
In your case, you have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing zone defense.
Right.
Like, as your kids get older, if you've got as your kids are what? You said 4, 6, and 9. So let's go 12, 9, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Or 12, 9, and 7. Let's say they're all playing travel. We can't guarantee those tournaments are in the same location.
Mm-mm.
So who does mom and dad not go see? Are you okay missing your kids' games? Like, these are the logistical questions. So not even the financial, not even the emotional, the logistical questions of like, can we handle this? And so I've known families who they say like, no, until we get to middle school, we're going rec. And like, which I agree with in the first place, but the whole process is like, everyone's going to get their turn, but everyone's going to go through the same process too.
That's right.
Because we have to treat every kid the same. And so it's difficult. I've known families who have told the older sibling, no, we're waiting. I know all your friends are playing travel ball in 4th grade, but your little sister deserves us to be around just as much as you do. So we're going to wait till you get to middle school.
When it brings to mind this concept of boundaries, and it can apply to travel ball. It can apply to life. You don't, just because there's an opportunity does not mean you have to say yes. Exercising your nose in the right places can keep you and your family sane. And I say that as someone who's learned the hard way.
Let me give this other story because I know there's some people listening that are like, well, what if my kid falls behind? Because like there's good things and bad things about living in a small town. The good thing is the competition in the middle school level is not nearly as high. Other people, if you're in a large district, the competition is fierce. And so it's a natural thing to think, well, if my kid doesn't start playing this young age, they're not going to be ready for middle school. What I would tell you, go back to the Coach Newby thing. If your kid's meant to get there, they'll get there. But the example I will give you is my friend Brad. His daughter's now a junior in high school. She's a softball player. She did not play travel ball until U12. That was by design as their family because they wanted to protect her and let her have a childhood. They wanted her to go to pool parties and birthday parties and all those things. When she went into U12 softball, she was the worst player on the field. But she went into travel ball at U12 with joy, wanting to get better, wanting to go through the process, where half her team were already experiencing burnout and were already considering quitting. By the time they got to freshman year of high school, Riley made the varsity team at a 4A powerhouse in Tennessee that contended for the state title and was all district. She called up because she loved the game. She was motivated to work hard and she did the work. So she has these experiences from a childhood that made her a well-rounded human being. And then when the time was right to take a step, and they did the regional travel first, and then they went statewide travel. And now in high school, because she's trying to get recruited, they're doing more of this, like not national level, but like Southeastern based travel. So they're traveling more, but they didn't start all of this in elementary school because they wanted a fully functioning human.
Yeah.
Just so happened Brad's a pastor. Brad's a former college baseball player. Brad, like, so much, like the first ever episode I did was with Brad.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like, so much of what I'm talking about today was already instilled in him as he was leading his daughter.
Yeah.
But she's junior in high school, loves softball. Just took a visit to a D1 school this past weekend. And so it's like, they waited. She was behind, but she was motivated to catch up and she caught up. No, and let me back up. That doesn't mean she played Little League in elementary school. So she was still, it's not like she started at 12. So like, I'm not saying wait till 12 to start.
Yeah.
I'm saying like, you can play rec ball until you get older. Yeah.
Well, and knowing your kid is important. And I like the concept of allowing them to become a full human being with all the experiences, well-rounded, too early to specialize. Maybe that's a different conversation for a different day. But I love that because at 12, she had that hunger when a lot of the kids were burning out. And, that's not always the case, but it's something to think about. Everything you say yes to, it means you have to say no to something else. And so realizing that, hey, if that's travel ball that you need to say yes to, that's great. There's no judgment or shame. We're not saying anything bad about it, but we're saying it needs to make sense for you and your family. Don't be peer pressured into it. Don't do it because you're insecure and you want to make sure that your kid has X, Y, Z. Do it because it makes sense and do it because that's a goal that you want to do. But Jonathan, man, this has been awesome. Let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
When your kids are 25 and they look back, what do you hope they remember about how you handled their sports years?
I want them to know that my love for them wasn't based on their performance and that I was proud of them for trying. And I'm proud of them just for the human beings that they're becoming.
Awesome. Brother, you're doing important work. Your voice makes so much sense in this world where we need it. And so thanks for speaking into this space. Where can my listeners find out about you, your podcast, and your organization?
So it's Healthy Sports Parents, wherever you need to look. HealthySportsParents.com has everything. It's Healthy Sports Parents on social, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads. It's all there. I do have a newsletter that I send out each Friday. You can get that on our website, HealthySportsParents.com. But the whole premise behind the newsletter is to give you a tip to approach your weekend games with your kids in a healthier way, in a way to take this idea in a tangible way onto the field or the court or the rink or wherever you're going. So would love for you to sign up for that. Other than that, follow along Healthy Sports Parents and put out daily content, put out podcast clips. There's no lack of content there. So you will have enough to keep up if you want.
And it's good stuff too. It's relevant, it hits, and so you guys check them out. I'll put links to all those in the show notes as well. But Jonathan, thanks for spending some time with us. Thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom. And man, we just appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.